So you saw that Britney is freed.
Wait, I did not see that. She actually got freed?
Well, they took away conservator rights from the dad, but there's still some, like, I think the bank still owns like 50% of her assets or something like that. I didn't watch the documentary, but I am a free Britney stan.
Oh, so you just jumped on the hashtag without even watching?
You didn't?
The...
So you want to
you quickly turn that around on me. I see what you did there.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Man, I was on Free Britney even back then when, all that stuff was happening, and I was 12.
It's funny looking back at it and now thinking, oh, she was like 24 or 23. Relatable, like shaving your head off, attacking a car, having this like mental breakdown. Yeah, I felt that way a few times at 23.
Yeah, what does it say about our culture back then that it seems like no one in the media had any empathy for her at all?
Let the record show that there was like a huge like pop culture like boom over the fact that I think it was her or Paris Hilton got out of a car and like their vag was shown. And like that was a big media story, which wholly inappropriate. But that
was like the TMZ was huge back then.
TMZ had a lot more power.
TMZ is like what CNN is now.
Whoa, hold on. I mean,
that's probably not appropriate.
That's a stretch,
analogy,
but I see what you mean. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Thank God for social media, because celebrities can now tell their own stories. So if they want to flash their vag, they can get an OnlyFans.
Yeah.
They have the liberty to do so. Different time.
And she gets to keep the money if she chooses to do that. So
that is true. That is true.
Well within her right.
No, I could be wrong, but apparently I think there's some rules for paparazzi. I don't know if we have any paparazzi listeners, but supposedly they can't take a picture of you if you're in your house. They can't take a picture of you if, like, there's certain regulations, or I don't know if it's even regulations. It's probably just like social norms that they've kept. Right. Like even the sleazy paparazzi have their own rules.
Fuck the paparazzi. I hope they are listening.
Is the Avon Inn. I am one of your hosts, Jerome Allen.
I am another host, Topher Wagner.
And let's chop. Chop,
Lucky
chop,
number
chop.
7.
Lucky number 7.
We were right. We were right all along about the impeachment.
Yes.
And I usually enjoy being right.
But what we weren't right about, the senator of North Carolina voting to convict Trump.
Yeah, the home state, Richard Burr, which
We do not endorse Richard Burr.
Not at all.
Not in any way, but
not at all. I have never voted for him.
Surprised.
And I was surprised, as everyone was.
Yes.
Until I learned that he was never planning to run for re-election.
Yeah, he's retiring.
So,
well, I just thought it was in my consciousness to vote in the right way. It's like, yeah, because you have no corporate interest tied to this anymore.
Right. Well, but it also it goes to show we have no idea how many Republicans would have voted to convict if they were in that same position. Some of the senators that did it, I think, really did just do it out of their conscience.
Well, Lisa Murkowski is facing re-election next year.
Yeah, so, I mean...
it might be next year, but in the next few years.
It's obviously a bizarre situation that doing the right thing is seen as brave or like making a big sacrifice, but it is for them because they know it's going to hurt their chances of re-election.
So for the listeners that don't know, the number was 57 to 43. That was 57 voted in to convict Trump of being the sole force that started the insurrection, and 43 said no, and we needed 67.
Which is the most bipartisan impeachment vote in history.
Out of the 4, yes. But it's something, I guess. But I think, maybe I'm jumping ahead in the conversation, but like I'm just extremely worried that if this is not impeachable behavior, then what is? Because a man died, and that is not being considered impeachable behavior.
I mean, I'm not much of a writer, but if I was, I don't know what I could think up that could be worse. That isn't just unfathomable, like I don't think we'll ever see a successful impeachment in our lifetimes at this point.
No, I mean, the one thing that Trump said that was correct, he said he could shoot a man and people would still love him. And metaphorically, he did. So,
what did you think about Mitch McConnell's speech afterwards?
I'm going to have to agree with what I heard on another podcast that it's much better read than heard, because Mitch McConnell, not really like an inspiring person to listen to, yet weirdly like, it's just like weird bedtime orator. Anyway.
And Trump used that in his statement about him. He called him a dour, sullen, unsmiling man.
How dare he take our jokes?
He's unsmiling.
Unsmiling. He failed to mention the jowls. He failed to mention the turtle-like exterior, but
I would have lived for that.
An actual just drag.
But okay, my reaction to it, part of me did feel some relief to just hear him express what I thought that he must be feeling this whole time, right? I know that he is as heinous of a person as he is. He's not an idiot.
But he created this Rubik's Cube of politics. I mean, he's the one who could have called the impeachment during his time as the majority leader, and then gave the Republican Party the ability to say like, oh, on a constitutional duty, we cannot do this. And then now he wants to take the moral ground by putting on the record that he was a sole proprietor. I mean, sure, but I just don't understand the political 3D chess that's going on. Also, I just think he's scummy. He wants to hold his party together and hold his power over the party by giving them a bone.
I think this is an appropriate use of the word gaslighting, right? Because he told us in that speech, I believe he is responsible. I believe that he incited the riot. I just voted to acquit because you can't impeach a person who's no longer in office. But he's the only reason we had to impeach him after. He's the one that delayed the process.
Exactly.
So it's just everything about the Republican Party right now seems like it's just in the deep throes of cognitive dissonance.
Well, because a lot of it is they want to maintain the base of Trump, like the far right Trump supporters, but they also want to maintain Republican establishment candidates. Like they don't want the Trump candidates, which are going to pop up in 2024, like whether they like it or not, and 2022. Like McConnell is mostly afraid of that. Like, so he wants to maintain some control over the establishment by allowing the establishment to move forward. But I think in his lack and cowardice, not lack of cowardice, but in his cowardice and lack of bravery in charging and holding Trump accountable, it's gonna spring up more Trumps. Could have banned the man from office. Now, of course, I mean, we're not excusing the sycophantist senators of Trump. I mean, there's many in there, but have you seen what's been going on at the state level, though?
In regards to the impeachment? I know that 6 out of those 7 senators that voted to convict are all being censured right now by their state Republican parties. So it seems like the sycophants are winning.
Yeah, the Republican Party at the state are fucking wild.
And 45 said that he was going to basically back any primary that he could to take these people out.
Yeah.
So all their biggest fears are coming true. And I hate that this is the way we're going to get Mitch McConnell out of office. I mean, he's not up for re-election for a while, but
I don't. I'm in two minds, right? Because basically, what happened is the Republicans were trying to like throw this whole like the Democratic Party's in shambles. It's coming at loose and blah blah blah. The progressives and the establishment are fighting, and it's like, I mean, yeah, we are definitely at odds, but we are not in the same odds that you have now created. It sort of seemed like the force of like negative energy kind of bounced back onto them. And what do you feel about this like third party? Do you think there will be an establishment Republican third party, or do you think it'll just stay the party of Trump? Because I mean, we have to be clear here, Trump isn't going anywhere.
So I've had trouble wrapping my head around this. Is is the new party the Trump party, or does he keep the Republican Party
That's
and the
what
establishment makes their own?
I'm a little confused about that too. I thought it was the establishments were the establishment Democrats, Republicans were leaving, but
Okay, so they're admitting defeat. That's him now. He's Republican.
I think so. I mean, we're only going to see more Queen Anons coming into the party, so they're going to have to. I don't know.
I heard
Because they're not winning. They don't have the I don't even know what to say. The veil of a Nancy Pelosi to maintain the sense of like democratic ideals. I mean, what they want to do is shrink the electorate. It's appalling, like what's happening with voter, or what they're trying to do with voter laws. And some Republicans have already gone on record by saying like they could win the House just by redrawing the districts from the census.
Yeah, but both of those parties are going to agree with that.
Who?
So even if the
I
two
see what you
Republican
mean.
parties branch off, they're still going to be able to get that kind of stuff done,
I guess
right?
they still care about shrinking the electorate and holding and creating minority rule over the majority. This is correct.
Yeah, anything that keeps brown people from voting, I'm pretty
they're
sure
all for it.
Yeah.
That's kind of their MO. It's like I go back and forth because I'm definitely team get rid of the filibuster, but I'm also like team like, does it maintain any is there any premise to keeping it? But the more I look into it, the fact that the only reason the filibuster is like a known thing was to block the Civil Rights Act in the 60s. So it's like Joe Manchin is saying like, I have to protect it for Byrd, but it's like Byrd he used it for the like segregation.
Right. I've
like,
seen some clips of that
like,
every time he's like,
God.
I'm doing this so that I can uphold his wishes. And it's like, all right, well, let's check the history book on that one, bud. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's not wrong. That is why he's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have like I don't know if I have hope or not, because can we really hold it that the Democratic Party will just come together, recognize that the Republican Party is only going to bulldoze over them and make sure they shrink the electorate to a point that they will hold power for the next following 2024 10 years. Like that is more than likely what's going to happen. If they don't seize the opportunity, increase like voter access, and actually put it into legislation as opposed to like relying on the courts or relying on anything. Because again, going back to Mitch McConnell, let's recognize he said all that stuff, but this is still the same man who denied Barack Obama the ability to appoint Merrick Garland, and then also squeezed in Amy Coney Barrett. Yes. So
for me, that impeachment vote solidified for me that we have to get rid of the filibuster. If we can't get bipartisan support on something as obvious as that with such clear-cut facts and evidence, they're not gonna get on board with anything that we try to pass.
No,
They're irrational.
because McConnell's already said to his conference, which I learned the other day, caucus, Democratic caucus, Republican conference. They have two different names for their groups. You know that?
I did not know that.
McConnell's already told his conference that the only way that the Republicans are going to unite is by uniting against the COVID relief bill. I mean, that has been, and let the record show. I mean, that's been McConnell's like thing from the get go since 2010 when they seized back. I can't remember, is it the House? McConnell, or actually it's 2008 when Democrats had again control of all three the House,
Three
the
chambers
Senate,
of Congress, or
yeah.
government.
That what we need to do is block everything that Barack Obama throws at us. Like that's McConnell. That's his OG strategy. So I'm
He's
not
the Grim
surprised.
Reaper.
He is the Grim Reaper. So, good for him for basically admitting that his life was in danger, because it was. I'll give him that.
Yeah, at least he's not gaslighting himself. But I mean, on a brighter note, I do think, he signaled in that speech that he does encourage further criminal inquiry.
Yeah, a Democratic, I can't remember if a senator or representative member is taking charges against him. It's like the NAACP, one of the members is taking charges against Trump.
Oh, I didn't know
Trump,
that.
Giuliani, and the Proud Boys and whatnot. So,
I
think
think
it's taken to the courts.
I think that Giuliani is apparently he's no longer serving as an attorney for Trump, and I saw Michael Cohen I guess, atted him on Twitter and said, hey, man, it's only a matter of time before he throws you under the bus. It happens to all of us. And boy, I mean, oh, the joy I'd feel in my stomach for Rudy Giuliani to get thrown under the bus.
Oh, that hair oil will just have him slip under it, so he'll be fine. In other news, what's going on in Texas is pretty upsetting.
Yes. You know, we're sending positive vibes to the Texans right now. I know someone down there who was just telling me that they have been like in, you know, below freezing temperatures inside their home, and they get power for like 20 minutes or something, and then it goes back out for another 12 hours or so. And
wow,
it just sounds really rough out there.
Well, apparently the rolling blackouts is I think it's the ERC or whatever, like the Commission on Electricity there does. But they haven't done it since a long time ago. And that only lasted for like several hours. But this is the first time where it's days.
Yeah, and it's supposed to remain below freezing until the end of the week. So, yeah, a lot of people are really struggling out there. And it is bizarre to me that the second this... It kind of reminds me of like the way the Republicans get so upset every time there's like a school shooting and people try to enact gun laws and stuff, and they say like, oh, you're politicizing this tragedy.
Yeah.
But the second these people start freezing in Texas, all the Republicans just start screaming about how renewable energy and the wind turbines and the Green New Deal is what caused this. And it's like,
even though the Green New Deal is not even enacted legislation, wind turbine and energy is not even the prominent way that
no, they are a fossil fuel state. They are proud of that. And it's crazy to me that anytime something terrible happens in a Democrat-run state, it's the Democrats' fault. And anytime something happens in a Republican-run state, it's still the Democrats' fault.
Of course. I mean, that's how you do it. Scapegoat.
It's just total bullshit.
Which, for the record, for those who don't know, the Texas electricity grid is the only grid in the United States that is not connected to federal power. So it is all privatized and deregulated. So the reason why they're not receiving more help from the federal government, is because the Texas legislature decided that they wanted to not pay taxes.
Do you know Rick Perry, former governor of Texas?
Yeah, I remember.
He made a statement that said the Texans would rather go 3 more days, something like this. He's like, the Texans would rather freeze for a whole week than let the federal government interfere in their lives and their economy and in the power grid. And it's like, speak for yourself. Like, I'm sure a lot of people in Texas, I mean, especially the ones that don't vote for the Republican leadership there, but like, that's not the case, that they would prefer to freeze than allow the federal government to interfere in their lives.
No, it's kind of this pull yourself up by your bootstraps war, which is also basically a war on poor people. That mentality of freeze, patriotism will warm you up or Texas pride will warm you up is just utter bullshit.
This is a perfect segue for me to talk about this Tim Boyd statement, which is upsetting on many levels, but also comical in its just pure absurdity. I'm just going to read. This is a mayor of a town in Texas. I wish I had the name of it. I read it earlier. Here's a little bit of statement he put on Facebook. Let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute. No one owes you or your family anything, nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this. Sink or swim, it's your choice. The city and county, along with power providers and other services, owe you nothing. All caps. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout. If you don't have electricity, you step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm and safe. I'll skip ahead. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish. Folks, God has given us the tools to support ourselves in times like these. This is sadly a product of a socialist government where they feed people to believe that the few will work and others will become dependent for handouts. There's so much to break down here. First off, I think you and I believe it is the government's job to support people in trying times. The government is here to help us.
The whole idea of government based in neoclassicism and based in Plato's Republic mythology is all about a entity in which the people of that state pay into this institution that does public goods. A public good is protecting them from natural disasters. A natural disaster is a fucking blizzard or snowstorm or ice snap, whatever you want to call it, in Texas. So, yes.
Yeah, so the government is supposed to manage all those services and the utilities, and the citizens who live there pay for the services.
Exactly.
You do owe them something.
You do owe them something.
You owe them the power
literally,
to work.
Like, if we're like, even to be like, to in a capitalist extent, they're exchanging their money for you to do a fucking job.
And
it is wild.
His position is, why don't you get off your lazy ass and build your own fucking power grid?
Oh my
Why don't you
God.
go and lay your own pipes under your house and get the water to you? It's like, what are you talking about? To clarify, he did resign after this, but it just goes to show the voters in Texas are not paying attention to who they are electing at all. This guy's clearly not qualified. He doesn't even understand the simple tenets of government.
What was the first line?
Let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute.
No. Like,
Bro,
what is this?
Your state is in turmoil. You do not have a minute.
No, you have 0 minutes.
You're supposed to be. All of these Republicans that are coming out and trying to bash the wind turbines and renewable energy, like, your state is suffering.
Right.
Get to work.
Right.
Stop scapegoating the wrong people.
Right.
And also, people tried to tell you that your infrastructure was not ready for this type of weather. And even though Texas only gets a cold snap like this like every 10 years or so, they could have invested in the infrastructure more. And now suddenly they want all this federal aid because they need help. And of course, Joe Biden is going to give it to them because he is the president for all Americans, right? He's not going to just hold it against them just because they didn't vote for him.
So what do you think about, so Joe Biden is indicating that there's a lot of Republican mayors and state legislators who support his COVID relief plan. And, he's going to have his first, they call the first State of the Union, like, I don't remember. There's a specific word for it. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he's going to, like, again, pitch this COVID relief plan to, effectively to Republicans to sign on to. Do you agree with his? He's currently going to Michigan and he's going to some other states, again pitching this plan. What do you feel about this tactic? Because we haven't seen in a long time, at least, a president actually go out and talk about a bill that he needs zero support from the other side from.
What do I feel about him seeking Republican support despite the fact that he doesn't need it?
Basically.
I think it's exactly what I would expect Joe Biden to do, and maybe it is what we need. I think maybe at a time like this, we need some of the Republicans to witness reason and witness something practical, something grounded for them to latch onto that can pull them out of the conspiracy theory world or pull them out of this. Because a lot of people, they fall into QAnon and they fall into this sort of sycophantic culty behavior because they're scared and because they don't feel like they can trust government. And there's really not very much threatening about Joe Biden when he comes to speak to a town hall.
No, not much.
And so I think that maybe this sort of campaign would be good for the Republicans who are teetering on the edge of QAnon, who really just need to see someone and go, oh, this is actually comforting to hear that this plan is trying to help me and my family.
Also, let the record show that, like, Joe Biden did a whole campaign from his basement other than when he was doing debate stuff. And now that my boy is vaccinated, Joey B said, I'm hitting the road.
Joey B World Tour.
Joey B World Tour.
No, that's interesting though. What do you think about it? You think it's a good strategy, or?
I think it's very old school politics to try and court. I mean, he's already thinking about. He knows that moderate Republicans voted for him. And I think he's trying to play to, speak to, and continue to, like, court moderate Republicans that voted for him. So it makes sense in playing to the base that supported him, for sure. So I don't think it's a negative thing, but I do think it's leading to the point of, we saw today that top Democrats are calling for him to cancel $50,000 in student loan debt, and he only wants to cancel $10,000. And he said this kind of just irritated me. I'm not going to pardon the debt from people who went to Harvard, Yale, and Penn. And it's like, yeah, not everyone goes to those schools. That is literally only several schools out of the hundreds of schools in this country.
Right. I think he's a little off base on that issue. And people have been bringing that up for years when people discuss the student debt crisis and all that and saying like, well, some of these people are privileged and don't deserve this. But it's one of those instances where it only works if it applies to everyone. Yeah. Right. And so it's, similar to people claiming, like this Tim Boyd guy claiming that like the people who are dependent on the welfare state are abusing it. It's like it doesn't matter about those special cases because you're using this argument to hurt people who really do need it.
And it's always a mythos, right? Like the welfare state is a mythos. Like that's just racialized language, of course. I mean, and the student borrow thing is not based in the fact that it could lift a lot of people out of debt and poverty. And of course, these are educated people, but that still kind of pushes. I mean, that's sort of how you start generational wealth. I mean, and I heard the argument that in a way it can be construed as some form of reparations. Like it gives people in debt the ability to move forward.
And let's be clear, poor people go to Harvard too. That's
all right.
Why they're in
Speak
debt.
to it.
And
Speak to it.
If you're a privileged,
right.
legacy person who got into Harvard because you've
already paid
Harvard,
for it.
You've already paid
if
it. If
you have money owed to it, that means you couldn't pay for it.
Right. So why are we paying off all these debts for all these privileged people who have money? And it's like, well, probably not. Because they probably paid their own debt off.
Yeah.
So we know that the reason he's opposing the 50,000 plan is because, like you said, he panders to, I guess let's call it his base. His base are the moderate Republicans and the moderate Democrats. And
that's
even
true.
The moderate Democrats don't support that plan.
That is, yeah. Yeah.
We are not in Joey B's base.
No, but he's better than 45.
Yeah, but again, I think it's important.
But now that's over.
Even for the cast, because we've been up his bum a bit. But I want to be clear: when I don't support what he's saying about the student debt relief, I think that we could do, even if I don't say 50,000 is the right amount, I think we could do more than 10.
I think we gave ourselves time to luxuriate in what is past, and now we can poke and prod.
Yeah.
Well, we got to wrap up here.
Should we just end on a quick? What's the opposite of in memoriam?
In destruction, in spitting on,
take the piss,
taking the piss in jest, pissing on. Really, not even taking the piss.
Rush Limbaugh. He's gone.
I wish I had like the piano, like the like that, you know what I'm talking about, on the keyboard.
Yeah. And not our audience, but I already predict people will say like, oh, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. But this man, I don't know how much you've heard of his radio show.
I'll read the tweet. Rush
ahead.
Limbaugh had a segment called AIDS Update set to music where he mocked dying gay people. So I don't really want to hear about speaking ill of the dead today. There we go. That's it. Thank you for listening to the Avant Inn. I am your host, Jerome Allen.
I am another host, Topher Wagner. If you liked what you heard, make sure to give us a review on Apple Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the works. Credit for our theme song goes to
Lakey, inspired by City of Angels. Quote.
Oh, my inspirational for the quote for the day is look deep inside yourself, and somewhere in there might just be a little love.
Aww. Bye-bye.